YNW Melly is under some serious heat from the law and is certain that he's going to get life. Some of the things he did are already so bad, so let me break it down for you. Number 6. The life of YNW Melly.
Come on. Who's running G? Yeah. I grew up in Guilford. This Guilford Park.
Before diving into all of this, we need to examine who YNW Melly is. He was born Jamal Maurice Demons. Yeah, no, seriously, the last name Demons. In 1999. That's right, he's not even 20 years old yet. Raised in Guilford, Florida, his early life would be very quiet.
Play with your bitch.
This 33rd, though, you know, this just...
But it was clear at a young age that he wanted to make music, and so at the age of 15, he went to SoundCloud and started to upload songs. He then got enough attention to start making more and more of them. But trouble would soon start to arise for him because when he was 16, he went and got himself into an incident involving weapons. While he himself didn't hurt anyone, he did partake in it, and that was enough for him to be taken into prison. However, that didn't stop his love of music. In a way, it enhanced it, and while he was actually behind bars, he released his first EP in the form of Collection Call. Many noted that his style was a mix of various other singers in the genre, not uncommon for a young rapper to do before he finds his own voice. Fast forward to 2018, he released even more tracks that help him grow his name, but this one, his biggest by far, was a track called Murder on My Mind. To this day, it's his most streamed song and easily his most controversial, but more on that in a bit. His fame grew so much that he actually worked with Kanye West on a song called Mixed Personalities. Despite his budding music career, he continued to get into trouble with the law, and that has casted a very dark shadow on him and his life, which now puts him in the situation that he finds himself in right now. But the kicker here is that there's little doubt that this is all his fault. Number 5. The crime that'll put him away.
They're also accused of, as you said, staging this crime scene to appear as though it was a drive-by.
Diving into his life sentence is a bit tricky because there's a bunch of factors. So let's talk about the one that honestly got him arrested, and it'll be a key part of his life sentence that he's very likely going to get. It all started on October 26 of 2018 when YN Melly went to the hospital to get help for 2 of his friends. Or more accurately, he had his friend Cortland Henry go to the hospital to get help from 2 of his friends, Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas Jr. According to Cortland, he and his friends were out driving in town in the early parts of the morning after a recording session when they were caught in a drive-by. According to him, a car pulled up to the passenger's side of the car and unloaded. Though Cortland was unharmed, the others were most definitely not. Upon reaching the hospital, the 2 passed away. At first, this very likely looked like a crime that was a drive-by, but certainly details didn't add up, like how the car seemed to be relatively undamaged outside of only 8 holes. Now, Cortland didn't even have a scratch on him, and most importantly, the way that Williams and Thomas Jr. were even hit. But one of the biggest tipping points was that a shell casing was found inside the car. When a weapon is discharged, the shell of it will either fly backwards or to the side, not in front of the weapon, or even in close proximity. It would have never have ended up in the car if this was the case of a drive-by, and in this case, the left rear side of the car, which is the opposite side of where the holes were located. Investigating further, the evidence showed that Cortland Williams, Thomas Jr., and YNW Melly were getting into that car. And guess who got into the back left seat? That's right, YNW Melly.
But they say through forensic evidence, they were able to determine that this crime scene was staged.
If you're wondering why he wasn't at the hospital with Cortland, he admitted to the police that after the incident, he got out and went off into another car. What police believe now happened is that after the recording session, all 4 did indeed get into the car, and at some point, YNW Melly went out and took out Williams and Thomas Jr. Then to help sell the lie, the 2 went and drove the car around with these dead bodies inside of it, just so that they can have some more plausibility as to where the drive-by happened. Then they damaged the side of the car to ensure and secure the lie. YNW Melly left. Cortland went to the hospital. While it took some investigating, Demons and Henry were arrested for the unlawful passing of Williams and Thomas Jr., and they're facing serious charges because of it. Number 4. The severity of the crimes.
As YNW Melly are sitting in jail charged with Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas Jr.
There are many layers to getting a life sentence. Ironically enough, causing the passing of a person is not an immediate life in prison penalty, but in some cases it is. YNW Melly is most definitely facing one of those situations right now. This is because of the heinous nature of the crime. YNW Melly hurt his friends in a very evil way, meaning that he did it in a way that was meant to be completely up close, personal, and without remorse. He was in the back of the car when the incident occurred, and the two of them didn't even have a glimpse of a warning. The unlawful passing of a person is a very serious thing, and the police know that when someone commits it, justice has to be served in one form or another. And given that he personally did the deed, that puts him in the front and center of this entire mess. But here's the thing. What might be even worse than the acts of him doing it himself is that not only did he try to cover it up, he had Corden lie about what happened in order to hide what happened. So that's two people gone, a cover-up, and technically a conspiracy. Plus, given the nature of the passings themselves, this would be premeditated, which is actually a higher level of crime than before. An act of passion is one thing, but planning out the incident beforehand, that shows intent in every way imaginable. And that's something the police will be using to get YNW Melly the maximum sentence. Which, given all that he did, is honestly a bit easy, because all of these accounts will stack, and it'll get him life in prison without much issue, bearing mistrial and all that. And that's all before you consider certain other variables that factor into decisions like this. Number 3, past arrest.
I got arrested in high school, but I got my GED really in jail.
As I briefly touched upon at the beginning of this video, YNW Melly is hardly innocent at all. And I don't reference the crime he only committed recently. He's been doing a lot of crime since he was 16. That's a big deal when it comes to rendering a sentence on a person. In the case of YNW Melly, he was already convicted a felon because of the previous incidents, and that was only when he was 16. So while it's true he's served his time, that doesn't mean he's learned his lesson, because he was arrested multiple times even after that. But why does it matter what happens in his past? Shouldn't it be the immediate past and present that the police focus on? And yeah, in some cases that's true, but here it's a case of showing the career path of YNW Melly, because this proves that he's been a repeated offender and that escalation is within his nature. He went from petty charges to serious crimes. His lawyer can't argue that he's never had crimes like this in the past because he's already been convicted for them. Plus, he's not in a good standing in the eyes of the laws anyway. Plus, his not so good standing in the eyes of the law will make the judge deem that harder punishments are necessary. As I noted earlier, crimes do stack up. He's committed 4 different crimes from this particular arrest, and when you consider the 2 arrests he's already had before, that would technically make this his 3rd strike, which means that any leeway he may have gotten in terms of punishment is now gone. Plus, if you can believe it, that's still not the end of it. Number 2, another passing. Remember what I said about escalation? Well, a new report has surfaced saying that both YNW Melly and his buddy, Cortland, may have been involved in another incident, this time involving a sheriff's deputy. This particular incident happened back in 2017 in Guilford, Florida, where YNW Melly lives. While not connected before, evidence from the current case seems to tie back to that previous case, and that has opened up an investigation into that matter. Perhaps given their current situation, they might be able to shed some light on this case, said a sheriff. You might think that this is a far-fetched claim to try and even get more evidence on YNW Melly, but there's eyewitness accounts of the two being in Guilford at the time, and some even saying that it was public knowledge. What's more, there was likely more than just YNW Melly and Cortland. There's been reports saying that there was a group of people discharging weapons in an area, and one of those who went and struck the deputy, taking his life in the process. Now, granted, this isn't proven just yet. However, if it is proven that he was involved in part or in whole, it'll be yet another charge on his account, and this would most definitely secure himself on the top of the list in regards to getting life in prison. So no matter how you slice it, this could end up very bad for him, and again, it'd be all his fault. Number 1, the police are already certain of his behavior.
So, Mr. Demons, you're facing 2 counts of premeditated, and the court does find probable cause.
If you listen to the media, you're going to hear slanderous stories about how the police are biased towards certain people and certain races. While it's true in some cases, in most it's not, as the men and women of the law enforcement do their best to keep things like race and gender out of their decisions. However, in the case of YNW Melly, that may not be an option, and not because of a deputy that may have lost his life because of the rapper, but because one of his own tracks, Murder on My Mind. The controversial song is one that is said to personify who YNW Melly is, and the police have not only listened to the song, but they've watched the music video, and they're possibly going to use this as evidence against YNW Melly. How could it be used as evidence? Well, it's simple. It can be used to establish behavior and intent, even though it was made 18 months before the main incident in question took place. There are many who are saying that this song shouldn't be used as evidence, because not every rapper who sings about taking a life actually did that or does that. But reports are saying that police intend to use the song in some sort sort of fashion. Should they be allowed to do this, they would have just about every piece of evidence imaginable in order to put him away for life with no room to wiggle out of it. So there you have it. Proof that YNW Melly is going to prison for life. Do you understand all that went into this decision? Do you think that YNW Melly will actually not get life in prison? How so if not? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time.